Well, hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thank you for joining us for our backstage session on online MBA programming. We have three great programs from three of the leaders in online MBA education today. In the house, Michigan Ross, Carnegie Mellon Tepper School, and Indiana's Kelley School of Business. And Kelley's been at this for a very long time, one of the true pioneers. Michigan Ross is relatively new to the game the last few years. And Tepper, which has a very unique online MBA experience, and we'll talk a little bit about that and how it's different from many online MBA options. I guess you've been out maybe for 6-7 years now, right, Carrie?
Almost 9, John. So we are coming up on our second decade.
It's crazy. Yeah. All right. I want to address a simple, very easy question that many people who will be watching this seminar will want to know. Let's say I'm an applicant. I know I want an MBA, but I'm not sure of the format. How do I know an online MBA is the best bet for me over a full-time residential program, over an evening part-time program, over even a weekend executive MBA? Who wants to take that first? Okay, okay, yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. So I think you have to have a really honest conversation with yourself first, John, and for everybody listening, to think of what is your lifestyle? What I mean by that is, what is work like? Are you wanting to stay with your employer? Is there any family involved? I think you have to have a really honest conversation with yourself, your partner, your support group to say, this is what I'm thinking about. Here's where I think my goals are. I think I want to stay at my company, or I think I want to branch out. I want to switch careers. And I think that you have to have that honest conversation of, do I want to move? Do I want to stay at my job? Does my job support being able to, log into a class at 6 o'clock at night? I think it's first step is having that type of conversation with whomever your support group is, and especially yourself. And then identifying, okay, I know that I want an online program because I really like my job. I just feel like I've hit a plateau. I've got the flexibility that I can log in. And so I think it all starts with the conversation you ask yourself of how am I looking to spend the next 2 to 3 years of my life and my professional career? And then I think that shapes the next steps in your search of, do I look full-time? Do I look to relocate? Or does my life, for the various reasons that I've taken a closer look at, say, no, I think an online program is best? And then that starts to shape which online programs you look for.
Right. And I should remind everyone, that's Carrie Calvario. You can see her name under her window there. And she's Director of Master's Admission at CMU Tepper. Tim, what do you say? Tim Byrne, who has my last name, but we're not related.
Not related.
Is Director of Admissions and Financial Aid at Indiana Kelley. Do you have a perspective on this?
Yeah, I want to add on a little bit what Carrie said. I think thinking about yourself and what it is that you want and need, but how does that fit into what you want out of the MBA experience? The MBA experience is really multifaceted, from the faculty and the curriculum itself, right? The real content you're learning, the skill development, to, we all know that networking is extremely powerful. And how are you building a network? What does that mean for you in your career? And what is your kind of career objective? Are you really looking to move up at your company? Are you trying to change industries or locations? Lots of those things can also play a role on top of what Carrie was mentioning, of how a type of a program might even play a role there. So I think really thinking about that and what it is that you're trying to get out of that experience can be an important factor for determining not only the mode or method, but even, as I'm sure we'll talk, the very different types of programs that we all offer, at our institutions can give you different flavors. And that means that sometimes some folks are great fits for Kelley, others are much better fits for the University of Michigan. It's all about, for us, and for me, I think, finding the right fit, and that works well for the student.
Yeah, good point. Sarah, some of the obvious benefits that both Carrie and Tim have just covered. Flexibility, number one. You haven't mentioned price, but price is a key thing because there are no opportunity costs of quitting your job to go online, as there would be for a full-time residential MBA. I think the other thing is, there's no doubt about it. Employers and students are far more receptive to online degrees, particularly since the pandemic occurred and so many people have worked remotely. And in fact, you can even make the argument that doing an online degree is more like going to work today remotely than ever before. Right, Sarah?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, this is a landscape, the virtual world that we've been in now for quite a bit. And obviously, previous to the pandemic, the business world was going virtual. So these are the skills that people need to know for the future. And just echoing again what everyone said is, I'd also kind of think of still thinking about yourself, knowing how do you network. I think the people that are in online programs need to be okay with emailing someone they've never met in person. If you know that you're someone that is more, I need to be in the physical space with them to kind of make those connections. Maybe you're a little bit more shy. Maybe looking at an online program with more in person, or just like an in person in general, is really important to think about. But if you're willing to put yourself out there, go to do events virtual, I think the online is a really great option.
Now, Tim, what do you give up by going online? And let me just, I'm going to tell you what people worry about, and you already know.
Sure.
They worry that they're not going to make deep connections with their classmates. They worry that their access to faculty will be limited. They worry that they won't be able to flex their leadership muscles in clubs and extracurricular activities. They might think, okay, I can't get a summer internship like I would in a full-time program in between year 1 and year 2. And they might think it's more difficult to transition out of the job they're in and take a leap into a new discipline, a new industry, and a new company or geography. What do you say about all those concerns that are on everyone's mind about the online MBA option?
I think those are valid concerns, and because different programs offer complements to that or sort of substitutes in different ways, it's really great for folks to ask those questions continually as they search in this process. But then it always just sort of looks different. And what I explain to students often too is that I think you can get a very similar outcome from like our full-time in residence program. It just takes a different pathway, and it takes perhaps maybe a little bit more effort. You've got to hang out in a Zoom room for a virtual networking session. You've got to go to our student community boards and participate in the discussion boards. You've got to reach out and schedule a call with a faculty member to talk about your assignment and get feedback. In an in-residence program, you walk down the hallway and you can wait outside a door or some of those things, and everybody leaves class and they go to a dinner together. You can build relationships, but it takes effort. And so if you're willing to put forth that effort, and that's, some of the things that we look for in our candidates is who's going to put in the effort to be part of that community. And then I think it's extremely enriching because you're actually with other like-minded folks who really want to put forth that effort. And that's actually, I think, the nice benefit in a way for an online program is people are actively choosing this, and they're actively choosing it because they want to put forth the effort, but they're coming from a very similar sort of mindset about what it is they want out of the program and what they're willing to build on and work with and network with. So all those things I think are possible. It will just look different at every school, and it's really about you and the pathway that you take to getting those things out of the experience that you want.
Yeah, that's definitely right. I mean, I've met a lot of online MBA students. One big surprise and takeaway for me is actually the deep relationships they've been able to form with their classmates and with faculty. Now, there are in-residence sessions. Tepper has a lot of them. Kelley has several opportunities, including immersion trips. Michigan Ross has experiential learning and other opportunities for people to get together. And people tend to self-organize, surprisingly enough. I mean, if you're all in the same area, it's surprising how many online MBA students try to get together for a dinner, a lunch, inviting each other to their homes. So it's possible to form very good and strong bonds with your classmates and with the faculty, many of whom really love teaching online, and they want that connection to their students. I want to talk about now the differences in the basics of each of these programs, because each of them, to Tim's point about finding the right fit, are somewhat different. Why don't we start with Tepper, because I think Tepper has the most of the online options, the most face-to-face sessions during the online MBA experience, and it's the longest program as well. It's 3 years long, right, Carrie?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So talk us through the basics of the program and what you think differentiates it from others.
Yeah, that's a great question. So basics of the program. So, and to address the why 3 years, it's the exact same curriculum, graduation requirements as the full-time in-person program. And so because you're only taking 2 to 3 classes at a time versus the 5 that full-time, that tacks on the extra time. And so for us, when we were taking a look at how do we have a program that addresses the need for flexibility, for kind of the changing the changing environment for business schools, but without the sacrifice of the requirements to graduate, the opportunities to come to campus. That's how the evolution of our program has gone. So our program is, for that 3 years, think of it kind of as half of the program is core curriculum. Everybody gets on the same page, right? So we're coming in at different skill sets. Tepper is a very quantitative analytic program. You do not have to be at insert quantitative analytic profession to be successful at Tepper, because everybody spends that first half of the program in the core curriculum, learning that. Halfway through, and a little bit before halfway through, you get the opportunity to then layer in electives. And that's when the path that I choose is different than the path that you may choose, John. And then you get the opportunity to really create this unique MBA that's specific to what your career desires are, what you're interested in learning more about. So we've all gotten on the same page. We've all spent an incredible amount of time together, both online and in person, because every 6 weeks we have an in-person, we call it an access weekend, but it's that in-person component. So we've spent a lot of time together. And then halfway through, we have the opportunity to then start taking electives, layering that in. And the access weekends, those every 6 week in-person components, become a lot more networking based, a lot more working with your leadership coaches, working on interviewing skills if you're going to be recruiting. And so there's a switch from really learning and digging into the basics to, okay, now how do I really grow? How do I make this my own? How do I use these in-person times together to really propel me into the next step of my career?
And the total number of access weekends that an MBA student taking the online degree would have is how many?
6. Well, each year is 6. And so as the current model, and we're always looking to make sure, does this meet the needs of our students? But Tepper does something unique in that the 14, 15-week undergraduate semester that many of us are familiar with, we take that and split it into 2. So we call them mini semesters. So if you think September to January is everybody's first semester, you've got 2 mini semesters in that time frame. So our part-time students have 6 mini semesters in a calendar year. After every mini is what we affectionately shorten it to, a mini, is an access weekend. So 6 times a year, the opportunity to get together in person, either half on campus in Pittsburgh, or we spread it between the East Coast and the West Coast.
So over 3 years, it's 18 times,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of contact.
Yeah.
And that's a very different kind of online MBA program. And in fact, you'd call it a hybrid or a blended program.
Right.
I mean, to some extent, all these programs are blended, but this to me is the most face-to-face online MBA option in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Okay, Michigan Ross, well known as a pioneer in experiential learning. Is that a differentiator in your online MBA experience?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Our online program, it takes 3 to 3.5 years to complete, and you're getting that same learning, which is kind of like our capstone of it, which is MAP, for Multidisciplinary Action Project. So that experiential learning, working with a real company, our online students do that the same, just like in any of our other programs. So they're able to work with real companies for those, kind of a mini consulting project. They're able to get that. Within our program, we have the synchronous sessions for classes where they're having live class discussion, where faculty are bringing in cases to discuss. Maybe they're bringing in C-level thinkers into the classes. So our students are gaining that, kind of real world look, even within the online space.
Right. And I should point out, since you mentioned the live internet class sessions, that each of these three programs have that feature. And when you're in the top of the market with the better programs, that is a common feature, having live classes pretty much every week. And when you get into the lower market, there are many programs that have no live internet classes at all. And I think that in and of itself is a real differentiator, because I think, you know, this is your chance to really interact with your classmates in team assignments online, and with a faculty member who's orchestrating a dynamic conversation, even though it's done remotely. Sarah, what about in-residence sessions at Michigan Ross?
Yep. So the majority of the program is online, as we said, the synchronous, asynchronous learning, but there are 3 residency requirements. So our domestic students can complete the residencies here in Ann Arbor or at an international location. Our international students will complete all of their residencies at an international location. But these are full 14-week courses. So they start the course with asynchronous, synchronous work. And then the middle of the semester, they go on location for 3 to 5 days with intensive programming. There's a lot of class time. There's a lot of group work. Maybe they're doing case competitions, presentations. It just depends on the theme of that residency. Then they go home and complete the rest of that course online. So even though it's a full 14 weeks, the in residence is only 3 to 5 days. But our students, they kind of say like these residencies are mini reunions because they've already met each other online. So once they're there in person, they don't have to go, where do you work? What do you do? They're past all that. They can just dive deep into the networking.
And as CMU Tepper said, half of their curriculum is core and half is electives. How does it break down at Michigan Ross?
Yep. So all of our students go through the same core classes, just like all of our other MBA programs going through. They will have choice in their electives. So they do have a choice. Do you want to take more marketing, take more strategy? If you're local enough, they can even take some of the classes on campus, which is really nice to even add more opportunity. Then you have the residencies as 9 credits, and then you have MAP, which kind of rounds out that 57 credits for the MBA at Ross.
Right, great. Tim, give us the lowdown on Kelley's program, Kelley Direct.
Yeah, so we offer 2 requirements in terms of our sort of in residencies for our students. The first is our Kelley on campus, where you actually come to, and I actually lead a student tour right through the sample gates there, which we think is really great. That's a foundational experience when students start with us. They get the true IU student experience, which we think is really valuable, amongst other things that are, of course, happening there. And then we offer what we call Kelley on location, where we're going to be picking different sites every year to meet with our current students, but also to bring in a little bit of that networking with our alums in location. So this fall, we're going to Chicago. 2023 still yet to be determined, but we're actively searching different sites across the country to figure out where we'll go. And so those are the 2 required experiences. They're about a week long or so in terms of travel and kind of when we get started. And so they're very immersive. And then the other options would be for more elective courses. So as I was mentioning with John before our call today, I just got back from Ireland. And so we do some international immersions, which are really cool elective options for our students to get a little bit more deeper. If they wanted that flexibility to have that more in-person type of experience, they could go with that as part of their coursework for us.
In fact, the head of your Online MBA program led the cohort in Ireland, right, on the Irish trip.
He did, yes. Our faculty chair, Will Gagan, he's from Ireland. He was able to be a great tour guide for us, but it really meant that we were getting a really tremendous experience all throughout Ireland and Dublin in particular.
And I should say, during the on-campus week, what's kind of interesting to me is obviously you divide everyone up into teams. They're asked to study a live case, live in the sense that some of the protagonists are often in the room, and then you present to the protagonists a plan of one kind or another. The cases are written specifically for that online experience, so they're not just off the shelf. And it's, you know, there's some tension and stress in having to present live during this week, and it's a very exciting week for students, right?
It is, and it's very challenging because it's the very first thing many of them are doing, but it's a real tremendous opportunity because we involve all of our faculty in that. So they're getting coaching with faculty members throughout their time here with us in that consulting experience. And then they're connecting with live clients and corporate partners that we have relationships with. So they're getting a truly unique experience to them and their cohort when they start, and it's different every term. So we think it's a great way to bring them into our community and our network and really round out their experience in a new way that sets them up for success with our foundational core of online classes that follows afterwards.
So Tim, you're Director of Admissions and Financial Aid. So how do you determine, as an admissions officer, fit with your program for a prospect?
I think one of the things that admittedly takes a lot of our time, well, a lot of my team's time, is actually doing interviews. And admissions interviews are intense in a way, and they can involve a lot, but it's really an opportunity for us to learn about you and your fit, because we know ourselves very well. We know what types of students succeed with our program. We know which types of students maybe do not, and what we can offer and what we cannot. And I think our goal there in that interview is to really learn about the student themselves, what it is that they want out of this experience, what are they prepared for, and to share who we are and make sure that we are a good fit going forward. I really care deeply a lot about motivation and peer-to-peer relationships. I think when you're working on a team project and you're 3 other partners on your team, one lives in San Francisco, one is in Boston, one's in Chicago, and one of them is a fireman and working all kinds of crazy hours. How do you come together as a team to accomplish what you need to for your classwork? And I think that's really valuable, because you have to be great on email. You've got to be great to jump on a Zoom call. You've got to be great to do all these things and work very collaboratively together. And that is so important to us, that student experience is still really great. And finding out your motivation for coming to an online program and coming to our program is really paramount for that.
Yeah. Sarah, you're Associate Director of Admissions for Ross. How do you determine fit?
Yeah, so we definitely look at the application holistically, right? I think we'd all agree you're not just a test score, you're not just a GPA. As Tim's saying, we want to see you and get to know you. So we definitely look at everything, but we definitely want to see people that are collaborative, because Ross, and it's a very collaborative MBA, you're still going to have group work. So we want to make sure that people fit within that. You know how to lead a team, but you also know how to follow on a team and be part of that team environment. We will definitely, look at work experience and kind of same thing, right? We want to know that you're a good fit for us, but we also want to be the right fit for you. So we want to make sure that, because we know the content within the classes, is this relevant to you? Is it relevant to someone necessarily, a year and a half out of college? It might not be. It could be, but it might not be, right? We want to look at that quality of work to make sure that the faculty are talking about things that you've seen before or are about to see. So looking at it holistic is really important for us, as I'm sure we would all say.
Right. And Carrie, you noted earlier that Tepper is a more quantitative business program, but that you're not limited to taking quants. And in fact, many poets come into the Tepper program, and they may benefit from the quants in it, because of course everyone is sharing and learning from each other. How do you look at fit for the Tepper Online MBA?
Yeah, so we are really, this is going to seem very basic, but we use our application very intentionally. And what I mean by that is every year, we take a really close look at what are the questions we're asking in our application and why are we asking them, right? So we all need the demographic information. We need to know, just kind of where you live, your email, those sorts of things. But beyond that, when we're asking career goals, we want to make sure that our career goals, the question that we ask, is it a short answer question? Is it a video essay? Is this something that we want to hear how you communicate, how you're able to talk about your strengths, talk about opportunities for growth? And so through the intentionality of our application, the essay question to see, is the essay question, the prompt that we're providing and the responses we've collected for the past year, has it been able to speak to the type of person you'll be in our program, how successful that you can be, what are some areas you're really excited about? And so taking a look at those types of questions, what we're asking, how we're asking someone to answer them. Is it that we're asking somebody to write 500 words about it? Or is it that we're asking them to submit a 3-minute video, which, spoiler alert, is the direction that we're headed. And so those sorts of things of being intentional in what we're asking applicants to submit. Every school, you're submitting several different applications. A lot of it gets monotonous and so many things we have to collect, but the types of questions that are really Tepper specific, the essay question, your goals, who you choose as a recommender and what we're asking your recommender to say about you and the questions that we're asking them to answer, those are all intentionally thought out for us and for you to also say, here, they're asking me a question about how I'm going to contribute to the community. Community must be really important to Tepper. It's so important. I've come across it on the website. I've seen it on, these Ask Me Anythings our students are doing. So kind of as you're the applicant filling out our application, thinking they're being really clear here about what the type of community and who can be successful. And then on our end, we're able to see how are you answering that to know that, that you understand the type of community and the type of individual who can be successful at Tepper.
Right. And I should say, and I've said this before, one thing about MBA programs is a lot of the learning occurs through your peers. Each of your peers in the classroom brings different kinds of work experiences from all over the world, from every kind of industry and every kind of company. And that knowledge gets fed into the classroom through teamwork, through conversations, through dialogue over case study examples, and a lot of learning occurs through your classmates. So it's important that every business school recruit and enroll a really diverse group of people from all over, from all kinds of different backgrounds, because it really does enrich the learning experience. Now, let me give you an example, because I want to know if I fit in any of your programs. I am a 28-year-old engineer who no longer wants to be an engineer. I want to be a manager now, a general manager, and I want a job in product management. If I enroll in your online MBA program, would I be able to transition to product management from being a very narrow-minded, narrow-focused engineer at my company? Tim, can I?
Sure. Lots of things are possible. I would say, just like I said earlier, that takes a certain amount of effort. Jobs aren't handed out like cotton candy. They're not handed out like cotton candy for our full-time programs. It takes effort for them too, for those students to make a career change like that. And I think it's actually very common. I don't know about other folks and their students, but roughly around a third of our students come from very technical backgrounds. Engineering, like you mentioned, John, but they could be doctors or mathematicians or all sorts of other fields, and they're looking to make this sort of a change. And so I think that's really valuable, as we mentioned, sort of the peer-to-peer learning, and to talk with folks who have maybe already made that change, and now they're going back to get the MBA, that you have that kind of network that's built in place. But I think the opportunities are there for somebody who's willing to put forth the effort. I think I'm sure my colleagues here also offer great career services and career coaching and networking and job boards. Those things, I think, for a really top-ranked programs like ourselves, are there, but it takes work. And if you're willing to do that, I think we're willing to be a partner in that with you.
Yeah, I think you just hit on a really important point that needs to be made for the audience. When you look at a big brand school that's been in this market for a while and that has a great reputation, you can expect a lot more career support than you would get from many other online MBA programs that have minimal to no career support and probably don't have one-on-one coaching either. So that's another important ingredient to consider when you're looking at a Michigan Ross, a Carnegie Mellon Tepper, or Indiana Kelley. You're going to get much more career support than you would at many online MBA options. Sarah, let me be a different person for you. I've been in the military. I'm now 32 years of age. I want to make a transition to civilian life. I have landed a job that's a job in normal work environments. How about that? But it's not the job that I really want, because I really want to be a consultant. If I come and get your MBA online while I have my current job, do you think I can make that transition?
Yeah, so I would definitely say it is possible. Just like we would all say, job placement is not guaranteed, but if you're looking to put in the effort, you definitely can make a switch. At Ross, as an online student, you have full access to the career development office, just like a full-time student. If you're looking to go through on-campus recruitment, get individualized career support, connect with peer coaches, that's available to you. I think an important thing to think about is your time, right? As a part-time student, you are balancing work, school, and then recruitment. It can be a lot, but if you are willing to, put your head down, really focus in your work and focus in what kind of companies that you're looking for, it definitely is possible. And something like consulting, I think the consulting club is a huge asset for that at any school. So definitely being able to connect with people in the club within our full-time program, our weekend program, that's a huge asset for an industry like consulting.
Okay, let's try one other profile with Carrie. I work in the nonprofit sector and I want a corporate job. Can I enroll in Tepper's program and 3 years later when I graduate, hope to get a job in the corporate sector and leave the nonprofit area?
I would say yes. And here's why. And I would say you're probably a little nervous because you've heard that Tepper it's quantitative, it's analytical. And so I then hope that, as you call me up and we talk, that I'm able to share with you a little bit more about the opportunities that you have to learn a little bit more about, okay, where corporate, what are you looking for? Who can we start to network you with? What are some opportunities that we have to really transition you out of, you're transitioning you towards that corporate setting. And so really early on at Tepper, whether you formally declare early on that you want to recruit, yes, I'm going to recruit, even though you sound like you'd like to, you have the opportunity to kind of do some kind of introspective of what do I want to get out of this? Where do I want to go? Do I want to recruit? Do I want to do these sorts of things? So really early on, you're challenging yourself with those questions. We are challenging you with those questions to be able to say, okay, I'm making the switch. I'm meeting with my career counselor who's going to say, you know what, John, here's some things that I think you need to grow. And, in Mini 2, you're going to be able to get this class, which is going to grow, your ability to use, to use data quantitatively and to be able to use that and to move into this corporate setting. And so you'll be able to start to make those connections really early on in your time at Tepper, whether it's through meeting with your career coach, meeting it with second-year students or third-year students in the part-time program to be able to say, I came from that background as well. Here's some networking that I did. Here's a class that I really think that you would like. And so because we're tight-knit and because we're small, you're able to make those connections and say, yes, I'm coming from a quote unquote non-traditional background. But here's how my path came forward. And here's how I think that we can help you get there. So you've got the support that you need. You're going to have folks saying, hey, actually, if you're still interested in keeping a toe in the nonprofit world, maybe take a class at our School of Public Policy as well. Maybe take a class there that we align really closely with. So you're going to have a lot of opportunities and resources of folks saying, here's how I think you shape your next steps forward.
Okay, so whether I'm a nonprofit manager, whether I'm an engineer or a consultant, you've all sold me on the online MBA. But now, you know what I'm worried about? I'm worried about my commitments. I worked very hard at my job. I have family responsibilities. Can I really do this? What kind of time commitment is required? And how do people in the program balance their professional and personal lives with now the addition of their academic life? Tim?
Well, I'd tell you that it's not easy, and that's okay. And that's the point. This is, I think, for all of us, is us offering the same degree as our in-residence programs, which are great programs. They are academically rigorous, and you are still working 9 to 5. So I will give you the cold and bad news first, is that it is not easy, but it can be done. You just have to be very thoughtful about it. And that means, support from your colleagues at work to, be flexible about certain things, support from your family and partners at home to do those things, and a true commitment to the time. And that means logging on to class, perhaps 1 night a week, 2 nights a week, depending upon the class, to do your readings, to do your group project work, to check email on the subway on the way to work, it involves some juggling acts, but the value, I think, ultimately is what you're getting out of that. And the more that you put in, and for our types of programs, it's what you're really going to get back out at the end of that makes it really worthwhile. So, we talk a lot, and I'm sure my colleagues here do too, about time management and planning. And are you actually ready to do this? And is this what you want out of your experience? And if you're looking for a great high quality experience, we're looking for a great high quality student. And if that's you, then we're happy to move forward with you. And so it takes a lot, but I think it's doable, and it's meant to be doable. All of our students do it, but if you're going to be a little bit wishy-washy, this may not be the opportunity for you. And that's just the cold, honest truth. And I'd rather us have that conversation now than to folks start the program and spend thousands of dollars in tuition, and then we end up in a worse spot either way.
Yeah, really true. And I should say, we're not, an online MBA is not an MBA light.
Right,
It's a
absolutely.
very rigorous program. It demands a lot from you. And that's the only way it can really fulfill your ambitions, to do the hard work and do the relationship building and, pull your own weight. And that's what you're going to get the most out of the program if you fully devote yourself to it. And fully devotion to a program is roughly, in an online part-time program, 15 to 20 hours a week. Is that right, Sarah?
Yep, I would definitely say that. Obviously it ebbs and flows depending on projects or things, but what's great is that, like we've said before, all your fellow students decided to be in the program too, so they're going through it together, and they're a great support system when things get tough.
Exactly. And I also think that when things get tough, the bonding really occurs very well, because you're all going through this same experience. You're sharing it with each other, and you're helping each other get through it. And that's what creates very enduring relationships that will last a lifetime. One of my favorite questions to ask, and I have to ask it because I think it's an important question. It's a revealing question in a way, depending on how it's answered, is this. When I get the opportunity to sit down and have a beer with MBA students anywhere, what I ask is, tell me the 3 things that you've so far experienced that will resonate with you through the rest of your life. Carrie, how would the online students at Tepper answer that question to me?
A great question. So I'd say number one is the relationships. We've talked at length about that, but I think it's that what you carry with you. When we see reunion weekends happen, or in the admissions office, we're so dependent on, on our alums who want to reach out. It's the relationships that they built in the program, online programs too, to be able to say, I know that I can call this person, whether it's a work question, whether it's a personal question. I think it's the relationships. I think it's the, so that's number one. I think it's probably resiliency, and I'm not trying to stay with an R theme. I promise. But I think it's just to say, it's a lot to what we just all talked about, to work a job, to maintain whatever, family, home life that you have, and to have 20 hours at a top MBA program. So to be resilient, to be able to have hard conversations with family members, with jobs, and say, you're not going to see a lot of me for the next 3 years, but I promise it's going to be worth it. This is what I'm working towards. And so to be resilient and to really dedicate yourself to that of essentially fitting 2 full-time jobs into one that you're required to show up daily and produce results and do those sorts of things. And then this MBA program when you're really challenging yourself, and it's a lot. So to learn resiliency and to learn, I think, techniques for that, to learn how to communicate better. And then the last one is leadership. And so, we used to have this tagline of it's not enough to be the smartest person in the room. And so I think we all 3 know that we have really bright, really exceptional students. But what they get out of the program is the ability to lead and to use what they learn and to use data or to form those decisions, but to lead, to get buy-in, to inform stakeholders. And that, whether it's the military candidate who has a ton of leadership, but has to kind of transition into how they're leading, whether it's the person who's only had a 2-person team is suddenly going to manage 12. And so the learned, the take on leadership and to be able to say and feel confident in how they're leading their teams.
Right. Three very powerful takeaways. Tim, what would be the three takeaways from Kelley's?
So, not to duplicate everything Carrie just said, because I think we all provide similar experiences, but I will dive in a little bit deeper. I think we talk a lot about Hoosier hospitality, being Hoosiers in Indiana, and that means a very personal touch for us, which online programs are historically thought of as these big aggregate type of things and lots of people there, but we're very thoughtful about the one-to-one interactions that you have. And that means I'll go to the three branches of our unit, right? You get a one-on-one assigned academic advisor. You get a one-to-one interaction with faculty members, meeting with you directly. And our career services in coaching, you get assigned a career coach and a one person. So you get these people and these humans that are on campus right here with us, even though we're probably remotely away from you as a student, but you're getting that person to talk to answer your questions and to feel supported throughout your experience. And that could happen at different times for different people for different reasons, but that's a real hallmark, I think, of our program and what our students really experience.
Great. I would also think, the Kelley on campus week,
Sure.
an immersion trip in Chicago or Ireland, as we've spoken about, would be highly memorable and resonant through one's life after it's done. And at Tepper, the Access weekends are probably the way to cement the relationship and the leadership aspects of the three
For
things
sure.
you brought out, Carrie. Sarah, what are the three things that people take away from the Ross MBA?
Yeah, so the number one, I would say the same is the network, the relationship building is huge within any MBA. But I think Ross does really well at teaching people how to push each other to be better, which then that means that they'll push you to be better. So building that relationship that helps both of you is really important. I'd say the next would be, yes, it's one thing to learn a lot of information, but it's another knowing how to apply that learning. So yes, you may get that from the class, but how do you take that and apply it to the real world? Because if you just know it, you can't do anything with it. There's not a lot to do, but Ross, they definitely take what they learn and apply it to real world opportunities so that they know how to, use everything that they've learned with an MBA, not just while they're in the program, but beyond. And then I would say, the last is probably just the general knowledge. I know that kind of seems like an odd thing to say, but because our students, they're going off and maybe they're going to be a director of in marketing, director of one kind of silo, but knowing that they had a general knowledge, knowing that they know how does accounting play into marketing, how does strategy play into marketing. Yes, you might only be head of marketing, but you need to know the general business to really make those informed decisions.
Great. Sarah, tell us what the next application deadlines are for the online program at Ross, and the best way for someone to contact you or a member of your team.
Sure. So our application to start the online program in January of 2023 and September of 2023 will open up here in the next few weeks. So that application to start in January 2023 will close at the end of September, so September 26th. And then the application to start in fall of 2023, that won't close until May of 2023. So you've got quite a bit of time for that one, but those applications will open up here right before August. And the best way to contact us, I would say on our website, we have an events page. We have individual phone consultations. So if you have any really specific questions, you want to talk one-on-one with an admissions officer, that is the best way, or attend our info sessions, and we're always happy to help.
Great. And obviously that means you have 2 intakes a year, not just one, as would exist in a full-time MBA program. Carrie, how about at Tepper?
Yeah, so we've got the one, we've got a fall 2023 start. And so that application will be live probably mid-August. And then we have 4 formal application rounds per year. So October, January, March, and likely May. Our online folks are welcome to apply in any of those rounds. We tend to see our online applicants start in our round 2, which is January. But if you're an eager beaver, you can certainly start in the October deadline. And then we typically have some level of rolling admission, so no formal deadlines, but that carries us through the month of June. So we will start back at it mid-August, and then with the first deadline being October, the last one being the May-June timeline.
Great. Tim, what do the deadlines look like at Kelley? And you have more than 2 intakes, don't you?
No, we just have 2 for our MBA. And so we actually have 2 deadlines. So we have a priority app deadline for our spring intake. That deadline is November 15th, and then a final deadline of December 15th for our spring intake. And classes would start in late February for that group. And so that would be the next admission cycle. And then we've got great contact options on our website. You can also schedule a call with our admissions reps. Even just sending us an email at kdirect for Kelley Direct is a great, kdirect@iu.edu is a great way to just start this process, and we can get you connected with whoever you may need to get your questions answered.
Great. Well, Sarah, Carrie, Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. Even I've learned a lot about the online MBA options at Michigan, Ross, Carnegie, Mellon, and Indiana University. And I want to thank every one of you out there for watching, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching this pre-recorded. Reach out to Sarah, Carrie, or Tim, or the teams. If you need more information, go to the websites. The websites at each of these schools are really deep with information, and even can connect you with current students or alums who could speak to you directly about the program and what it's like from the front lines. So this is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.